Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. I want to talk today about relationships, and I know I did a video on this pretty recently, but I don't even remember what I said in it. So I'm just going to focus on things that you maybe wouldn't hear too much from someone else when hearing relationship advice. So the first area that I want to start with is your perception of what a romantic relationship is. I think a lot of people adopt their perception of a romantic relationship from, societies and religions without realizing it. There are a lot of ideas that have been, pumped into your head and just into the world, just in everywhere you look for a very long time. And a lot of these ideas are not really looked at very closely anymore. Nobody really asks themselves why things are that way. So, the first thing that I want to encourage you to do is to just get rid of any preconceived idea you might have about what a relationship is and be open to thinking of it in maybe a more healthy way, ideally. Not to assume that your current idea is unhealthy, but you may end up back where you started, if that's the case by the end of this video. And again, not to assume that I'm gonna that I'm gonna tell you what to do and that I'm right about everything. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that I would never try to say anything that would make anyone's life worse or unhealthy. I think carefully about my words. So, you hopefully will not be in a worse place by the end of this video, but ideally you'll be in a better place. Either way, um, I the second thing that I want to talk about is some of the biggest issues that people have in relationships, and this is still connected to the first thing, so it's sort of like part of the same category. But with the ideas that you have of what a relationship is out of the way, you may start to notice a lot of things that you or your partner are doing that came from those ideas. So that's sort of the second thing. Um, Among those things, you might find yourself worrying about if they're cheating. You might find yourself wanting to get married, wanting to have kids, wanting to do all of these things by a certain age. Um, you may find yourself being very fearful of losing this person or, looking for a specific type of person. And what you love more than the person themselves is the fact that they kind of fit your image of what you wanted. And I don't think anyone would really, I don't think anyone would really say that. I don't think people want to admit that to themselves if that is the case. But you are not going to change a reality by not looking at it. If you have a tumor on your head and you brush your hair over it, it's still there even if you're not looking at it, and it is still going to kill you eventually. So, best to acknowledge it and do something about it, even though it's going to be extremely stressful and painful in that example. Um, so, um, it is very important that you acknowledge reality, even if it's an uncomfortable reality. So, if you find yourself looking at your life and wondering if maybe you chose someone for the wrong reasons, or you made decisions for the wrong reasons in general, don't be afraid to acknowledge that. I know it's scary. I know it's a scary, tough thought to think that, you may be in a situation that you don't actually want to be in, but think of how much worse it would be to just stay in that situation and never acknowledge how bad it really is, living almost in like a bubble throughout all of it. You're not even really there. And it is going to eat away at you. You can only brush your hair over it for so long before it starts to show and it becomes impossible to deny that you have a tumor, or, cancer or something that you can only hide for so long. You can only pretend it away for so long. Um, so what I think about relationships is that the concept of having another person to complete you suggests that you're not whole to begin with. I have a problem with that because I don't think that I am incomplete when I'm single. This is neither here nor there. I'm not single at the moment, but even if I was, I would not feel like I needed someone else in order to complete me. And I don't want anyone to feel that way. You should never think of your partner as your other half. Even if you're finishing each other's sentences, that's a great, dynamic, powerful relationship, but it doesn't mean that you would be incomplete without that person. And there are situations that can lead to that, What if they just randomly die? You know, it can happen at any second. They could slip in the shower, they could get in a car accident. Death is always around the corner, whether you want to acknowledge that reality or not. You don't realize how many times you come close to dying in a day. So you could lose your partner. And then what would you do? This is your soulmate. This is your other half. You are incomplete without this person. But they died. So now what? What if they didn't die, but you lost them to addiction, drug addiction, alcohol, whatever it is? What if you didn't lose them necessarily to addiction, but you just didn't really feel a connection anymore? You feel like you had this incredible, powerful connection at one point, but now it's just kind of dried up. Maybe you're putting a lot of work and effort into it and they just stopped. Maybe they see you evolving and growing and becoming an amazing person, and they don't want to do the work that's required to go with you. So they're kind of left behind and they're trying to hold you back as a result. Maybe they're mentally unwell and dangerous and they weren't when you met them. That's the thing, you know? And maybe it really was never meant to last in the first place. Maybe it has nothing to do with decisions that they made with their free will or freak accidents like them dying. Maybe it's just something that was never supposed to work out, but rather you were supposed to learn from each other. You know? These are things that are not really taken into account when talking about concepts like twin flames or, like the Christian idea of having a soulmate. When I use the word soulmate, I think of just someone that you're supposed to meet and have a connection with, and you're supposed to help each other and learn from each other in one way or another. And that to me is a soulmate, regardless of how long it lasts. Because, truthfully, nothing lasts forever. Nothing. Not life, not anything that starts. It's eventually going to end. But there's always something else. It's never just that one thing starts and one thing ends and then that's it. That's the end of existence. Existence is filled with trillions, infinite, not even trillions, infinite little things that start and end. Sort of like the concept of how energy doesn't die, it transforms. That's what it is. Maybe your relationship transforms into something else. Maybe it becomes a friendship. Maybe your relationship with that person ends up turning into something completely unrelated to that person, but, a new adventure for you. And that's okay too. Maybe the same energy that you were putting into that relationship, you can now put into a new relationship or work or anything else. I mean, it's just a question of what you're putting your energy into, and doesn't always have to be the same thing. In fact, it's guaranteed that it won't be, no matter how hard you try to force it into place. Nothing is guaranteed to last forever. There are some relationships that do just last until you both die, and that's okay. I'm sure some of those are people who are genuinely, happy with each other. And I'm also sure a good amount of those are people who are together for the wrong reasons. And I'm really hoping that if you would have been the latter, I hope this video at least gets you thinking. Um, so the third thing that I want to talk about, I think I covered most of the things regarding concepts that people have. Oh yeah, I want to, before I move on to the third thing, I want to talk about monogamy. I think that the concept of being with one other person, it's sort of related to what I was talking about, having like a soulmate, another half, but it creates this fear that your partner might cheat on you, and I think, excuse me, I think cheating basically just means that you are being dishonest and secretive. If you are hiding things from your partner, you're living a double life. You're not being honest with them about who you are or what you're doing. Secrets in general, that's cheating as far as I'm concerned. I don't really think that it's realistic to expect people, to have your partner to say, I expect you to be attracted to me and only me. I don't want you to ever be attracted to anyone else, to have thoughts about anyone else. And it's just not realistic because I'm sure you're not doing that. I can't imagine that you are incapable of acknowledging when someone else is attractive. Um, it's it There are people who are specifically attracted to emotion, specifically attracted to um, a person's personality more than their appearance. And, that's okay. Depends on the person, who you are. But most people are attracted to appearance. And it is most people who are promoting the idea that, you should only be attracted to me, and it's wrong if you're attracted to somebody else. And if you cheat on someone, if you sleep with somebody else or kiss somebody else, or you have an affair, or you start talking to them and getting really close with them, having an emotional connection with someone else, um, you absolutely should tell the other person before it even starts. Like the second you start having feelings for someone else. Not even that, but you should just always be in communication with your partner. You never want to have a moment where you feel like you're keeping a secret from them, where you're having all of these thoughts and emotions and you feel like they wouldn't understand. You have to hide it from them. That's not a relationship if you're that afraid to tell them the truth. So, this actually is a perfect segue into the third thing that I wanted to talk about, which is about trust and boundaries. So this is the last thing that I'm going to talk about, just these three topics. Um, and honestly, it might not even be three because the first one was almost just like an intro to the second one. So just these two areas, which are preconceived ideas about what a relationship should be and trust and boundaries. So it is extremely important to acknowledge these two aspects of when you are in a relationship with someone regarding trust and boundaries. I mean, the first aspect of it is making sure that you are not treating them unfairly. You're not putting them in a position where they can't venture off and be themselves. They can't do what they really want to do because if they do things, it's going to bother you. Let's say, have you ever been in a relationship and every little thing they did meant so much more to you than it would have if they were just a friend, like changing their hair, changing the way they dress, where they're spending their time, what they're doing in their spare time, little things like that that really shouldn't matter. But because it's a romantic relationship and the connection is so much more powerful, you want to feel like you can relate to the things that they want to do. And if they do something that you maybe wouldn't relate to, or make an appearance change that you maybe don't like because you have to look at them, that can be stressful. So, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're not putting them in a position where they feel like they have to limit themselves from doing what they really want to do in order to not upset you, in order to keep you appeased. There are people who will do this. I even have found myself wondering if I was doing this, where someone that I was in a relationship with would do something and it would make me really uncomfortable, and I would not know how to react to it. What you do in these situations is you look inward and you ask yourself, why is this bothering me so much? Why does it make me uncomfortable? And I think the answer is going to be one of two things. The first thing is that it makes you uncomfortable because it shows that you're different. It shows that you're maybe incompatible, which is a reality a lot of people, it's a tough pill to swallow. People aren't going to want to accept that. The other reason it might make you uncomfortable is that you are being a little too controlling. You're not really giving that person space to breathe. You're not loving them unconditionally and unselfishly. You are sort of trying to control them and make them fit into your perception of who you want them to be for you. And the truth is, you can't do that to anyone. People are going to be who they are, and you should never guilt someone, intentionally or not. You should never put someone in a position where they feel like they have to change who they are in order to make you more comfortable. So ask yourself if it's one of those two things. And if I know neither of them are good options. One of them means you have to break up, and the other one means you have to loosen up and not be as controlling. So they're both kind of tough to deal with. But the flip side of this is being the person who is in a relationship with someone like that. What do you do when the things you're doing are making the other person uncomfortable? Well, that could mean the same things. It could mean that maybe you're just not compatible, maybe they're being controlling, or maybe the things that you're doing are actually unhealthy, which is also an example in the other option. I forgot about that. Let's say that you maybe are like all of a sudden you start doing cocaine or something. I don't know. Just as an example of something that most people think of as problematic and addictive. I think is cocaine what's mainly known for being super addictive. Um, whatever drug or substance of any kind could cause someone to spiral downhill and become kind of disconnected from themselves. This is something that you really wouldn't want to watch someone go through. So if your partner is encouraging you to stay away from this, whatever it may be, ask yourself, are they being controlling? Are you guys just not compatible? Or are they right? And if it's the latter, if it's that they're right, that is a tough pill to swallow because it means you have to actually consider not doing what you were doing. Maybe you really shouldn't be, um, you know, getting involved with something that could be dangerous or harmful to your body or your health. Maybe it's just out of concern for you. And maybe, when you're doing it, it makes the other person feel lonely because it's almost like you're choosing it over them. They're not enough for you. You need this substance or whatever it might be. Maybe it's not a substance. Maybe it's like a video game or just any kind of addiction, anything that is unhealthy for you. When we do things that are unhealthy, it's not fair to the other person that we're in a relationship with because we are hurting ourselves. And if they love us, they don't want to see us get hurt. So, no one that loves you is going to want to see you get hurt or do something that isn't good for you. So, even though it is important to give people space and understand how complicated addictions and things like that are, it is also important to acknowledge when someone is just not giving you what you deserve. You don't deserve to be treated like you're not enough. You shouldn't be in a relationship with someone who is choosing their addiction over you. It's just not healthy. And maybe that is their wake up call to realize that, if that's their choice, they're going to have to live with it. They can't have both. And they shouldn't expect both. Doesn't mean that you don't still care about them. Doesn't mean that you don't still hope the best for them. And it certainly doesn't mean that they're alone. And you can let them know that. But you can also let them know that it's what they're doing isn't treating you right. Maybe that'll help them realize that it's a problem. But, either way, you do want to be very careful of these areas. The side of being controlling versus being in a relationship with someone who's controlling, just like the two different sides of these dynamics. And be careful deciding which of the three categories it is. Is it that you're controlling? Is it that you're not compatible? Or is it that you're right and they are doing something they shouldn't be doing? Which, can go two ways. Either they keep doing it or they stop doing it. And you have to make sure that you're respecting yourself and your boundaries the whole time. Boundaries are extremely important. You guys have to be able to trust each other, and you have to be able to say no and respect that. Sometimes they're not going to want to talk or be available. Sometimes they're just going to be having a day or whatever, and sometimes they might just say no for no reason other than they want to prove that they should have the ability to. You don't always need to validate it when you say no. You don't need to come up with a reason that you perceive as valid. You're always allowed to say no. You don't need any further explanation than that. And yeah, hopefully keeping these in mind in a relationship will help you. I think there are a lot of relationships out there where people are not really applying any of what I talked about in this video, and I wanted to talk about it because of that, because it's things that I don't really see very many people talking about, and yet it happens all the time. It's very relatable. We all kind of know what it feels like to have been in those situations. So maybe you're totally fine, and you've got a husband or a wife, and you've got kids, and you're happy, and you're living a totally conventional, like, nuclear family situation. That's totally fine. Just make sure none of this stuff applies to you. Don't be afraid to look at the truth if it's there. And a good way to do that is to really look inward at yourself and ask yourself if you're happy. Be willing to face your trauma. I talk about a lot of this stuff on this channel, and I'm going to continue to talk more about it. I'm even going to start doing live streams. So definitely let me know if you have anything that you want me to cover or talk about. And hopefully this video was helpful. Thank you very much for watching. I'm pretty sure I said everything I wanted to say. As of now, my schedule is every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. If I make any changes, I will put the change in my channel banner. And I have another channel at Tristan Marion 4. I'll put the link to that in the description. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day or night. Excuse me for burping. And I will see you next week, or on my other channel on Sunday when I go live, which is technically also next week. Unless you consider Sunday to be at the end of the week, but I think most calendars put Sunday at the beginning. Doesn't really matter. Have a good day or night. Thank you. Also, I really appreciate every like and comment. I haven't been getting very many of those. I don't know if YouTube is shadow banning them, but I always notice them and I really appreciate them. So, yeah, thank you.